In a world where we often find ourselves waiting for someone to come and save us, it's time to embrace one powerful truth. I hate to tell you this, but no one is coming. The answer is you. Welcome to the podcast that empowers you to take charge of your life and unleash your true potential. I'm your host, Ofri Fuchs, and I'm thrilled to embark on this transformative journey with you. So, if you're ready to embark on a journey full of self-discovery, growth, and actually take responsibility for your life, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you're here. Now let's rock and roll.
Hello, and welcome. My name is Ofri Fuchs. Welcome to my podcast, my very first episode of No One Is Coming, The Answer Is You. I am a transformational life coach. I've been researching and dealing with various aspects of transformative life coaching. And I decided to bring this podcast forward, bring it to you, bring it to life, based on the understanding that 1 second of knowing that no one is coming. If I don't push myself and decide to save myself or create a different story to my life, no one else is going to do it for me. No matter how much help I get from the outside world, nothing is going to make the transformation unless I choose to do it and wake up to my own life. So this podcast is about the transformative practice that we can have, understanding, coming to a realization and constantly looking inwards to what it is that I can do to help myself. And to me, the foundation, the very first thing that we need to do in order to create any transformation, and this is what we're going to talk about in this very first episode, is responsibility. Responsibility is the word for no one is coming. The answer is you. Take responsibility for your life, for wherever it is that you are at this very moment, which is probably a consequence of your subconscious not being aware of what brought you here. And just understanding, whatever it is that happened, it's no one else's fault. Yes, life showed up, but I showed up to meet life in a certain way, and this is the result. Now I can be passive about it and say, well, this is life, life's shit. Or I can choose to look at it in a different way and say, what can I do to create it in a different way? So let's dive in a little bit. Let's dive in and explore how we can live intentionally and how we can really choose and own our responsibility. So, responsibility. First thing we do is understanding that it's not only the willingness to accept our actions, it's also the courage to stop, take a breath, and choose to create a different action, to create a different outcome, right? Because outcomes, results based on our actions, if we're not passive, right? Somebody had to do it. My daughter just came up to me and we were talking about something that happened in her school, and she was a part of it. She was, quote unquote, a passive part of it, right? There was peer pressure. But I had to explain to her, my love, you took action. It's no one else's fault that you decided to move forward and be a part of that situation. It's your own doing, so we have to take responsibility for it. And this is the outcome, so we have to take responsibility of the outcome. All right, so once again, I wrote a couple of notes, so I'm looking through my notes. So, like I said, responsibility is not only fulfilling our obligations and duties, it's owning up to our choices. Now, we can have positive and we can have negatives. Negative outcomes, negative results. Now, what happens to us when we own up to it, when we actually take responsibility? There's such a great deal of empowerment that comes with it. I remember, I'll share this story with you guys, that when I used to be an actress, and on the very first day of my acting school, I had to pass through all these auditions, and there was 15 of us, and the headmaster of the school sat us down and said, well, congratulations, you guys are the next generations of actors here, actors and actresses. But I want you to know that being an actor is a very difficult job. And if you don't get the opportunity to do what it is that you want to do and love to do, you're going to have to create it. And I remember the cringing feeling that I had in my stomach. Me create? No, you don't understand. I'm the one that needs to be found. I'm the one that needs to be discovered. I'm the one that needs to have the red carpet right in front of her, and somebody saying, please come and be in my movie. Please come and be in my show. You were the one I've been waiting for. I'm not going to create anything, not because I'm all that. It's because I was so helpless to the fact that I can create something for myself, and powerless. I felt disempowered completely, like I'm a pawn in somebody else's game. And that shift, understanding, it took me years to understand the shift of, it's not only in acting, it's in life. In life is where we are no longer the pawns in the game. We actually are the players that move the pieces. And we can win this game once we understand it. So once we have that understanding, then we can reclaim our power that somewhere in our history as children, it was taken away from us because we thought we're pawns in somebody else's game and people have a say on our lives, but it's not the case. So let's reclaim our power, and let's stop being a victim of our circumstances and our stories. And we can actually, once we understand that, we can become active participants in our reality. So I challenge you to see where you can own up to life and say, this is my doing. Even though it's all out there, this is my doing. I can recreate this experience that I'm having, and I can create meaningful change through the challenges, through my belief systems, through whatever it is that reality is bringing into my face. I can recreate that. And that will help you set your purpose. And through determination, you will see that life unfolds in the way that you want it to be. Now, what is the other advantage of understanding, taking responsibility, owning up to your life? To me, one of the most important things that I see in life, the meaning of life, if you want, is growth. It's constant growth. And taking responsibility, owning up to your life, embracing it, is immediate growth. Now, again, before we can move forward and say what it is that I want to do, we have to pause. We have to sit there and I will do a whole episode about the power of pausing, the power of stopping and self-reflection. But once I pause and I use this moment to understand, hey, this is what I did up to this point. It's not working out for me. I'm going to have to be humble about it. It requires some humility. And it requires, again, the courage and the willingness to face my shortcomings. I'm like, oh my God, this is how I react to life. I am anxious all the time. I am fearful all the time. I am angry all the time. And if I am being angry, this is the results I'm getting. Who am I going to blame? Life? Life is happening to everyone. Not everyone is angry. Life is happening to everyone. Not everybody's anxious or fearful or stressed. Right? So life is what we create. And once I own that and I take the power back, then I can create growth. I can understand where is the lesson for me to grow from. And once I understand that, the next time I face this challenge, now I'm more resilient. Now I know how to react in a responsible fashion, in a responsible manner that's saying my action is not going to be reaction. It's going to be an action from purpose, from what it is that I want to create, what results I want to create in this situation. It doesn't matter if you're talking about your relationships, if you're talking about your job, if you're talking about your money situation, if you're talking about your parenting, if you're talking about losing 10 pounds. It's all the same idea. Owning it, taking responsibility for where if you're heavy and if you're, 50 pounds overweight, whose responsibility is it? Now, don't go down that road of saying, okay, I have fat jeans. No, you don't. I don't mean your pants. No, you don't. Okay, there's always a fork in the road for us to take. We can always take the high road. It might be a little steep. We might have to climb. It might be a little challenging. Or we can just, have that snowball roll down and, yada, yada. This is my life. Here I go again. All right, so we talked about growth. We talked about the lessons, the resilience. Now, another thing before we wrap this up, the other thing that responsibility, and this is a big one. It's also a big one for me because this was one of my biggest challenges I find is taking responsibility in relationships. Now, it's not only about me, right? It's about we. We as a couple, we as parent and children, me as a child, me as a parent, we as a workspace, we as a community, we as the world, right? If I want to have a healthy relationship with my neighbor, with my child, with my spouse, with my mom, I'm going to have to take responsibility for my actions, for my reactions. Again, it doesn't matter if it's personal or professional. Once I take responsibility and I say, hey, you know what, mom? Hey, you know what, kiddo? Hey, you know what, loved one? Hey, you know what, my boss? I effed up. What I said there, how I reacted there, this is not my highest self. This is not the highest version of myself. This is something I need to look at. What was my trigger? What happened there for me? And I apologize. And that creates trust and respect. And that is the most valuable thing you can create in a relationship. Effective communication. I can trust you to own up to who you are being in this relationship. And if I can trust you, then I can trust myself. So that brings out the best in the other person because you're modeling the best version of yourself when you are so truthful and honest and authentic and owning up to your good qualities, your good traits, and your not so good traits. So that nurtures the connections that we want to create. We can resolve conflicts. Can you imagine if politicians would take responsibility for the way they're being in the world? For what they said? Like, hey, you know what? I actually said that from ego. I actually said that because I was scared that I'm going to lose my seat. If business people, if entrepreneurs, governments, banks, whatever, people of power, can you imagine if they take responsibility for what they're doing to the world, to the ecology? Families, parents, take responsibility for your kids, for the way they're being. Oh, it's my kid. No, it's not your kid. Take responsibility. Are you present? So we want to build stronger, more fulfilling bonds with others. And hey, a relationship, it's also one with yourself. So who are you being when you're talking to yourself in the mirror? Can you take responsibility for the crap you're giving yourself? Can you take responsibility for the way you're talking to yourself? Are you being kind to yourself? Or are you constantly putting yourself down? Now, can you imagine if you take responsibility and say, hey, you know what, I've been shit to myself. I haven't been my number one cheerleader. Now, if you own up to that and you choose to grow from there, can you imagine the effect if you are choosing to be complete, utter, boundless, endless, unconditional love to yourself? Can you imagine what that will create in your life? Unbelievable results. Unbelievable. All right. So just try that. Try that. Explore that. Go out into the world and explore that. So we're going to wrap up, and I want to conclude and say, responsibility, don't go back to when you were a kid and your mom used to say, all right, little young man, this is your responsibility. You made this, mess. You clean it up. No, it's not like that. Yes, I made this mess. I get to clean it up. So it's not a burden. We don't need to avoid taking responsibility. On the contrary, it's a gift. Embrace it. Oh my God, I made this mess. How would I like to reorganize this room? How would I like to reorganize the mess I created in my life? This is your life. You get to choose. What do you want to create in it? So you get to unleash. It's like your mom giving you the keys, like, here's the house. You do what you want with it. You can make a mess, or you can clean it up and have it all nice and flowery and air up open the windows and air it up. So you get to unleash your potential. You get to be the fullest version of yourself by creating this positive change, like just one day at a time. Like, where can I improve the way I be in the world? So I challenge you to step into that, to step into your power. Responsibility is power. If someone is responsible, you're responsible here. I'm like, he's the one in power. He's the one in charge. She's the one in charge. Take ownership of who you're being. Take ownership of your life. That way you can truly shape your destiny. And that's what we're here to do, right? Live the fullest and best version of our lives we can possibly be. So I thank you. I thank you for tuning in, whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to this. And I want you to share, if you can. Share in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, share in the comments, or contact me at www.ofrifuchs.com, OFRIFUCH. Don't go there. FUCHS, S as in Sam, Fuchs.com. And just write me. Let me know how it's going. What's changed for you? Taking responsibility, looking at things differently, owning up to, you know what? Pick up someone else's trash on the street. You see someone litter, pick it up. You know why? Because responsibility is not just about you, your family, or your own little business or your house. Responsibility is also about the world. And if we see that as part of who we are, then we can be the catalyst. We, our own little tiny, tiny, tiny lives, we can be the catalyst not only for our own personal growth, but to the growth of the world. And there's no bigger or better feeling of fulfillment and creating inspiration, inspiring yourselves and inspiring others. So just remember, the power of transformation lies within you, and no one is coming. The answer is you. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.